Basic features of the correct approach. Welcome back, everyone. In our previous discussions, we identified the nature of the problem and the factors that keep it alive. At this point, some of you may be wondering whether the approach we have described appears to move in a circle. After all, we said that the path begins with a stable and pleasant state of mind, yet that is also the goal we are trying to achieve. This may seem confusing at first, but the ancient teachings explain the process step by step. The first step is to assess your present mental state honestly. Ask yourself whether your mind is currently dominated by negative qualities such as anger, fear, anxiety, jealousy, excessive attachment, or restlessness. If these negative qualities are strong, your immediate goal should not be to reach the highest mental state right away. Instead, your first task is simply to reduce the negativity. If the negative state is not very strong, you may be able to proceed directly toward developing a more positive and peaceful state of mind. An important point should be remembered here. A dependable, knowledgeable, and compassionate friend or teacher is extremely valuable during this process. When the mind is affected by strong negative emotions, it is often difficult to judge the situation correctly or decide what the next step should be. A wise advisor can help you identify the appropriate goal for your present condition. Many religious traditions concentrate mainly on this first stage. They provide rules intended to reduce harmful behavior and prevent further deterioration. Such guidance can certainly be beneficial. By reducing harmful actions, some people also experience a gradual improvement in their inner mental state. However, the ancient path goes much further. It does not stop with controlling outward behavior. It aims at transforming the mind itself. Even Lord Jesus explained that the 10 Commandments should not be understood merely as external rules. Their deeper purpose concerns the intentions behind our actions. Similarly, many ancient teachings are often misunderstood when people focus only on the literal words instead of the intended meaning, which is always directed toward conscious and intentional actions. According to this ancient path, every stage has its own logical starting point and its own immediate goal. The goal is never an impossible leap. It is simply the next healthier mental state above the one you already possess. Of course, some people may progress through several stages more quickly because they have developed beneficial qualities through previous experience. Nevertheless, higher levels of peace usually grow from a mind that has already achieved some degree of stability and calmness. Most people, however, do not begin with such a peaceful mind. Therefore, the first practical step is to create conditions that encourage even a short period of mental calm. This can often be achieved by selecting a suitable time of day, choosing a peaceful environment, and associating with supportive companions. Such conditions help the mind settle before deeper development begins. Personal determination also plays an important role. Making a sincere inner commitment to avoid harmful actions becomes a powerful safeguard against future mistakes. At the same time, regular practices that calm the mind gradually strengthen pleasant and wholesome mental states. Ancient traditions do not encourage developing outward calmness through fear or intimidation. Such methods may produce temporary control, but they damage inner peace. Instead, the ancient approach encourages understanding. People are invited to examine the reasons behind the teachings, consider the available evidence, and accept them through their own wisdom and experience. Another important feature of the correct approach is that every solution should be protective. While solving one problem, we should not create another. If there are two unhealthy extremes, moving away from one extreme should not mean falling into the other. Consider anger as an example. Suppose you are trying to overcome anger toward one person. It would be pointless if in the process you simply redirected that anger towards someone else. Similarly, when explaining that one person is innocent, it is often wiser to show that the event was unintentional or that the actual damage is much smaller than originally believed, rather than placing the blame on another person. It is also important to remember that anger itself creates additional suffering. This understanding becomes much clearer when we study well-known true stories that demonstrate how patience, understanding, and compassion have successfully resolved conflicts. The same principle applies to excessive attachment. Sometimes the mind swings from anger to attachment, or from attachment back to anger. Neither extreme leads to lasting peace. Therefore, both should be recognized and corrected before they become deeply established. Harmful actions can also appear through speech and physical behavior. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, abusive speech, and divisive speech often create serious consequences because they provoke reactions from other people. Likewise, substance abuse, idle gossip, excessive attachment, uncontrolled anger, and wrong views are harmful to the individual as well. Whenever such tendencies are detected, they should be corrected as early as possible. Fortunately, this becomes easier with practice. A person who has already learned how to recognize and control anger once will usually detect future outbreaks much earlier. With repeated practice, both detection and correction become increasingly natural. Once negative influences have been reduced, the mind gradually becomes calmer and more pleasant. This peaceful state then becomes the foundation for developing even higher qualities. At this stage, you possess greater mental strength. Wrong tendencies can often be recognized before they become powerful enough to disturb the mind. The next step is to practice maintaining this calmness in ordinary daily life. Initially, peaceful conditions help us establish the new mental state. Later, we learn to preserve the same calmness while facing the normal distractions and challenges of everyday living. As your ability to detect disturbances early continues to improve, your corrections become quicker and more effective. Gradually, calmness remains stable even while you are engaged in your normal activities. In time, long-lasting peace and the pleasant feelings associated with it. Finally, do not worry if you cannot yet understand the entire path. That is perfectly natural. You can begin simply by controlling harmful actions as best you can. As we have discussed, selecting a trustworthy advisor is extremely helpful. Listen carefully to the guidance you receive. Reflect upon it. Ask questions whenever doubts arise. As your understanding grows, you will gradually realize that these practices are not meant to satisfy someone else. They are carried out entirely for your own benefit. The stage of receiving correct guidance, reflecting upon it, clearing your doubts, and making an inner commitment to follow it is itself a major achievement. It naturally leads to the next stage of the path, the conscious control of harmful, intentional actions, which becomes the firm foundation for further mental development. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this discussion helpful, please consider giving this video a like, sharing it with someone who might benefit, and subscribing to the channel for our next conversation on this path to inner peace. Until next time, take care, reflect deeply, and be kind to your mind.